Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as 17 hours, but hey, it's something. Now, this episode, as you can see, more visuals, which means we're doing a good old political quiz. I thought we were done, but you gotta learn, since the internet is so obsessed with politics, there's gonna be millions of political quizzes out there. Also, get me 3 more subs so I can have the scary number. Ooh. With that out of the way, let's get right into the news. First, we're going to be talking about this. A Tory MP by the name of Christian Wakeford has defected to the Labour Party. Tory MP Christian Wakeford has defected to the Labour Party and called on Boris Johnson to quit as Prime Minister. Mr. Wakeford took the Bury South seat from Labour in the 2019 general election just by 402 votes. But now he will sit as a Labour MP with his new party leader, Sir Keir Starmer, offering him a warm welcome. The ex-Tory was believed to have written a letter of no confidence in the Prime Minister after revelations of lockdown parties in Number 10. Basically, here's what's been going on. Boris Johnson has been getting into a lot of trouble in regards to parties that the Tories keep having despite the COVID lockdown rules. So now, many people are seeing that not only is Labour rising in regards to the polls for the next general election, but also many people are calling on Boris Johnson to resign as Prime Minister. And many other people, not just this guy, have said that they want to have Boris Johnson leave. Many other MPs in the Tory party have submitted letters of no confidence, so there might be a no confidence vote in Boris Johnson in the Conservative Party. There's this one guy, I don't remember his name, but he's like a prominent minority politician who is slated to potentially be a good replacement for him, for the Tories. So, just based on the fact that an MP is defecting probably does mean we should look at this a little more seriously than the funny little tidbit of, haha, see, Boris Johnson's not popular, haha. So anyways, now let's move on to the next foreign story. Brawl in the Honduras Congress ahead of new president's inauguration. So as you can see, there's this fight that's going on literally right here. What's this fight about? Well, let me explain. You see, here's what happened. The Libre Party is of course the party that Xiomara Castro has been elected under. They, in the lead up to the election, we may remember this, they formed a coalition with another guy named Salvador Nasralla, and he was under his conditions of being in this coalition and becoming the VP candidate of Xiomara Castro. She would have him be the vice president, and a member of his party, which is a center-right-ish populist anti-corruption party, they would be elected to be the president of the National Congress. However, 20 Libre Party members joined up with other legislators in the other parties, the right-wing parties, to vote for another Libre person by the name of, Jorge Caix, to be the president of the the president of the National Assembly. And basically, here's basically what happened. A bunch of angry Libre legislators from her side called the other guys traitors, and the other guys called them Xiomara, and they started fighting each other. And here's what happened. Here's what ended up happening. 18 of the MPs of the Libre Party were expelled. And the other 2 basically repented for their sins. So basically, let me just show you how this goes. Because I think it's right here. The results, National Congress. See, Libre only had 50 seats. And they kicked out 18 members of their party. That is pretty big if you look things logistically. I honestly cannot believe that they went to that level, but at the end of the day, that probably is a good sign that Xiomara isn't going to tolerate any BS. But, I mean, at the end of the day, she might not have any members of her party in the future. Let's just say that I think, I'm not saying that this spells bad signs for Xiomara, not yet, but I'm just saying this may be some trouble in the line for her. Remember, Honduras has had some electoral troubles before, so maybe we should be paying closer attention to this. Anyways, next story. We're just going to talk about this general thing. Nearly twice as many Democrats are not seeking re-election in 2022 than Republicans. Nearly twice as many. So far, 29 Democrats and 18 Republicans have announced their plans to either retire or seek other offices. Democratic Representative James Langevin of Rhode Island and Jerry McNary of California became the latest to join the growing list of retirements Tuesday. So, I'm just going to say this. This is, again, one of the things that where many people are doing speculation. A lot of Democrats seem to be a lot of people are under the impression that the Democrats are going to lose big time in 2022. So many people are interpreting this as Democrats trying to get out before going gets tough. Or tougher. But, I don't know. This is just an interesting number. Just like all of these representatives are retiring. Because, like, I mean, the same thing happened in, like, 2020 or 2018, where a lot of representatives retired, and it was like, this is going to be pretty big. A lot of representatives are going, which means we're going to have a pretty... I think I tweeted something about that, actually. Like, it was like, at the end of the day, this many people will be leaving. Or I think I said this about this election, but at the end of the day, look at this. 29 Democrats and 18 Republicans. So, like... 47 people will not be in the next Congress. This is pretty big. And I don't know how this is going to pan out. But let's just see. We'll see what happens. Speaking of things panning out when it happened, a former representative is trying to re-enter Congress. Donna Edwards has announced bid to represent the 4th District again. Former Congressman Donna F. Edwards announced on Thursday that she will run again for her old seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Edwards has been beginning for a campaign for several weeks after Anthony Brown announced that he would vacate the seat to run for Maryland Attorney General. The fact is, our Congress will no longer gets our fair share from Washington. We've got to fix that, and I will, Edwards said in a 2-minute campaign launch video. And I'll go back with more seniority than more of the people in that building. That means clout to make sure our district has not just a seat at the table, but a seat at the front of the table where decisions are made. Now, this is the thing, like, I mean, I wouldn't be saying this for a reason, so either Edwards is really good or really bad. And personally, I think Edwards is a pretty good representative, and I actually am endorsing her for her seat back. Now, why did I do that? Well, ironically, it's a person that I don't even care about that actually sort of sold me on her. Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar basically said at one point, like, Donna Edwards was the AOC of his time, because she, like, did this big thing where, like, similar to AOC, she ran against a multi-term incumbent and then won. And here's another reason why. HR 676. Let me see. Show more. E. Edwards. Edwards co-sponsored the bill from her getting elected to her leaving. And she left to run for Senate, so that's why she left. I think that's a pretty good tell of how good she would probably be as a representative. I'm down. I'm down to see where Donna Edwards goes. Hopefully it's to the House of Representatives. So anyways, let's move on to the next story. Because something big happened. Manchin and Sinema joined the GOP to sink filibuster change for voting bill. This was the thing that was building up for a long time. And if I was smart, I would have posted the video. I would have posted my video where I talk about the filibuster around this time. But no, I posted the one about Super Mario Gomez, and it got 8 views. So who's laughing now? Not me. The Senate voted 52-48 to defeat the rules change, which would have nixed the 60-vote hurdle for the election bill. And many people knew that this was failing because here's the thing: Kamala Harris left literally before the bill was slated to pass or fail. So many people are like, oh, okay. But honestly, in my opinion, here's what the headline should have been: Manchin Sinema joined GOP. Because at the end of the day, that's truly what had happened. I don't care about any of this whole, oh, but these guys, they keep the Dem majority. I don't care. Look at this Dem majority. The Dem majority. Look, see, they help the Dem majority. The Dem majority. This is not helping the Dem majority. This is not helping at all. And this is just ridiculous. I don't care about Manchin or Sinema. These guys are ridiculous. These guys are stupid. And you know who else thinks they're stupid? Bernie. Because right before this thing happened, Bernie said that he would support primary challengers to Manchin and Sinema if they continue to post scrapping filibuster. And since they did scrap the filibuster, since they didn't scrap the filibuster, my guess is that he will support primary bids for them in the next election. Here's one problem I have, though. Look at this. This is one problem I have. Where were you here? Your name's here. That ain't you, though. Where were you here? And where were you here? Again, your name's here, but it ain't you. Where were you when we needed you? We needed you to, Kirsten Sinema. This is people, I knew Kirsten Sinema was like this before she got elected. Before she became a senator. This is nothing new. I knew this. And I talked about this early on my show. I don't care about Kirsten Sinema. I didn't support Angela Green because Angela Green supported Kirsten Sinema at the end of the day. I don't think I'd support anybody here because it's just who cares? Sinema is ridiculous. And I don't care about yes, my bi queen. Who cares? I don't care. Kirsten Sinema would sell out her bisexuality in that. If people gave her enough money, she'd do it. That's the thing. I don't care about the Dem majority if you're just going to keep voting in line with the Republicans. But my bigger point in this section is, Bernie, where were you when we wanted to get rid of her to begin with? She could have literally skedaddled. In fact, Bernie endorsed... Hold on. I remember this. Down here in Arizona. The gubernatorial race. Let me see. Okay, Bernie didn't endorse David Garcia in the primary. I'm pretty sure he supported him in the general election. No, he didn't. So I was wrong. Dang it! Oh, well. So anyways, let's just move on to the next story. The feds issue subpoenas seeking records related to Henry Cuellar and his wife's associates. So this is a thing that happened. One day, just out of the blue, some random news article popped up where it's oh yeah, Henry Cuellar's house is getting raided by the FBI. And they're like, huh? Searching the home of Congressman Henry Cuellar 24 hours. So apparently, the only information we have so far is that the things that they are searching for, they're issuing subpoenas seeking records about a wide array of U.S. companies and advocacy organizations, many of them with ties with the former Soviet nation of Azerbaijan.
Saturday, I'm Whit Johnson. We're following several major
I have no clue. They have not really given us any details. All we know is that they're issuing subpoenas related to Azerbaijan, and Cuellar is fully cooperating
One was killed. The other at
That's all we know.
Fighting for his
And that's
life.
why many people, when they saw this, they're like, oh, this is really big, and this could ruin the chances. But here's the thing, like, as far as we know, currently, there is nothing given. Like, we don't have any information that could do anything bad to Cuellar. And Cuellar seems to be running as if this thing hasn't happened. He's still running ads, and they're still doing whatever. So we don't really know much. We don't know if this is going to hurt Cuellar, or if this is going to... I mean, it probably won't help him, but it's not going to... We don't know if it's going to hurt him or not. So anyways, now let's move on to the main topic of this video. We're going to be taking the Prism Political Quiz. Now, the Prism Quiz is somewhat interesting. I haven't looked fully into it, but I did briefly skim certain aspects of it. Let's briefly read the description. The Prism Political Quiz attempts to provide you with a breakdown of your ideology in 6 dimensions: government, economy, society, religion, security, and foreign policy. Unlike many other quizzes, rather than giving you an agree/disagree question, it gives you a number of statements and asks you to pick out the one that best represents your views. This ideally gives a better chance to show your reasoning for a particular view that allows differentiating someone who opposes democracy because they believe in monarchy, and for someone who disagrees with it because they believe in anarchy. Okay. Let me see. Would you like to take a quiz with friends? Seated quiz, I don't really care. Okay, so I thought this would give like a thing about the prism, but I guess not. I know that it has like certain... Oh wait, no, here, the values quiz. Here are the values: anarchism, authoritarianism, confederationism, direct democracy, e-democracy, federal republic, monarchism, plutocracy, Socracy, technocracy. Well, that's just for the government. Then for economy, classical liberalism, communism, laissez-faire, market socialism, mixed markets, order liberalism, social democracy, socialism, society freedom, perfectionist, progressivism, societal justice, traditionalism, religion, anti-theist, atheist, hybrid, secular, theocratic, security, decentralized, humanist, law and order, procedural, reformist, state security, total security, foreign policy, assimilationist, globalist, imperialist, internationalist, isolationist, minimalist, national populist, nationalist, open borders, and sovereignist. They don't have anti-imperialist. That's really weird. I guess... Oh, they're going to put me in isolationist if that's the case. The seated quiz is dumb. So I don't care. We're just going to start the quiz normally. Prayer in school. Most schools should have daily prayer. Private religious schools may have prayer if they want, but any public schools that exist should not. Prayer does not need a dedicated time slot in schools. Students may pray on their own time if they wish. I support having a minute of silence in public schools in which students may pray if they choose. I completely disagree with every part of all these philosophies. I do not care about this issue. The neckbeard in me wants to say this. But in actuality, it would probably be this. I don't think that prayer should have a time slot, but if students want to, that's fine, whatever. Click the check mark if this... Click the question mark if this is a slight preference. Click the check mark if this is definitely your position. Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool. Reproductive incentives. Population limiting incentives would only hurt the poor, as the rich will not care about the incentives. We should offer financial support to the poor to ensure youth are able to have their needs met growing up, but not enough to consider an incentive. Those with genes that the state wants should have children and have children often. All those with poor genes should not be allowed to have children at all. I do not care about this issue. I completely disagree with every part of all these philosophies. We need to keep our population in check, but incentives will not stop the rich, so we need to have a hard limit on the number of children as possible. People should have as many children as they want. This should not be business of the state. The earth has a limit in the population it can support, and while we should not have strict controls, we should incentivize people to limit the number of children that they have. We should encourage our native citizens to have more children by offering tax incentives to ensure that they can support our economy. Now this is... I do understand the idea of the earth is definitely going to run out of room eventually, so we can't have be popping out kids without any needs to support them. But also, I do understand many people see this as poor genocide, because poor people are going to have a lot more children. I don't know why sociologically that happens. Maybe it's just because poor people are like, okay, this is all we can do, so let's do it. I'm going to go with this, but slight. I don't really care that much. Agreement between allies to prevent border checks between them. Schengen. Great word. I don't know what that means. We should not allow people to leave the nation as such. I am support. What? Agreement between allies to prevent border checks between them. It's important that we can examine those who's coming into our nation. We cannot control who enters those nations, which is unacceptable. With this agreement, our people can easily vacation into our allies. So they're saying if I would support the idea of an agreement between our allies to prevent border checks. I support this, just not with our allies, but with all nations. People should be free to enter any nation. I suppose this. Having people from other nations in our nation at all. This agreement, our people could easily vacation to our allies they choose with negligible additional risk, so I support this. The agreement is a win for everyone and can make it possible for closer alliances between our people, as long as these nations respect our laws and values. I definitely don't agree with this. Support this just not with our allies, but with our nations. I support this agreement as long as people can respect our laws and values. This can make it easier for tourists to visit our nation and improve our national wealth. The agreement is a win for everyone because it makes it possible for closer alliances between our people. We should not allow people to leave the nation. This one's stupid. What's more stupid is the one that's like, we shouldn't have people from other nations in our nation. That's stupid. Agreement between our allies to prevent border checks between them. I'm gonna have to go with slightly this. Just because, just on a basic level, these countries are not stupid. We can't just let people in without any checking. This is the more idealist future of like, oh, we have no borders. But it's like, I mean, I get the sentiment, but we're not at that point, so let me check again to make sure this isn't like someone's xenophobic. It's important that we can examine those who are coming in our nation. We cannot control who enters those nations. Wait. Dang it, I'm so confused. I don't know, I'm just going with this and just leaving it at that. Districts. The population does not need to be represented so much as all parties who the policy is affected will need specialized representatives to analyze the issues from their perspective. We should have districts nationally with representatives that represent roughly the same number of people, but with a guaranteed minimum representation for geographic areas. We should have people represented in our legislature proportionally with their vote at nationwide level. If 10% of the people nationally support the party, 10% of the legislators should be that party. Each person should look out for their own interests, not through government or voting. There could be a single non-elected ruler who, no. Representatives are interfering with democracy rather than representation. We should directly vote on all important issues nationally. The government should represent the people who represented them through military and other representatives should represent an equal amount of land. If you've invested enough of the country's land to an entire district, I'm going to go with the proportional representation. Because honestly, proportional representation of all of these kind of make the most sense. Concentration of power. Power should be concentrated according to wealth. Citizens who are wealthier have a bigger stake in the nation, and in most cases understand both the specialization of how people think and what they want, which allowed them to become wealthy. Only those who have served in the military and protection. We need a single leader. No. Power should be distributed to everyone through a large legislative body with enough people to represent the views of each person. We should distribute power by the region, by the nation. Power must be decentralized to everyone, with important decisions ultimately decided through frequent national referendum. Nobody should have the power to make laws. Policy should not be set by politicians, but by experts in that field. It's gonna be either this or this. In my ideal world, it's a little bit of both. You know, there's some issues where it would be a referenda, some issues where it would be a, like, or maybe like a referendum and then the policymakers then decide how it gets implemented. I'll just go with slightly this because it's like I want more democracy. Religious holidays. Okay, this is a small one. Religious holidays are the most popular religions should also be national holidays. No. The government should guarantee the most holy holidays of all major religions in the nation so that all religions can perform their religious duties. The state should not make religious holidays national holidays and instead have more holidays around dates significant to our nation, like an election day, or to emphasize relaxation other than a religious observance. Again, these two are pretty good answers. Like, I mean, on one end, I do agree that maybe we should have, like, Kwanzaa off or Hanukkah off. But I think maybe it would probably be better to have this one because make it so that it's, like, more focused on the nation rather than... Well, no, I was about to word that really bad, like, focused on the nation, not the people, but, like, I mean, like, focused more on, like, things that unite everybody in the nation rather than just the religious one. I would choose this as well, but also, I'll go slightly this. Artificial intelligence. We should fully embrace AI as soon it will and should be able to make decisions far more objectively and effectively than humans will. People and companies should be allowed to use AI freely. Artificial intelligence risks displacing living, working people with their lifestyles and livelihoods. We should hesitate to replace jobs with AI. We should embrace AI, but make sure that there's adequate alternatives for workers, and it will displace... It could also hide discrimination through AI based on biased data. We should limit its use. I would probably go with this. Like, it will do a lot of damage, but we should also try to do it to make sure... But, like, technology is going to advance at one point, so we should... let it happen, but also we need to understand the good. We need to understand the good and bads of AI. It's going to do a lot of good, and it's not going to do a lot of bad. So we'll focus on that. Minimum wage. There should be a moderate living wage that won't put small businesses out of business, as well as tax on larger companies with many workers below the poverty line to pay for any welfare their employees receive and ensure small businesses are competitive. As well as a tax on large companies with many workers below the poverty line to pay for any welfare their employees receive to ensure small businesses are competitive. I didn't actually hear of this idea before, but that sounds like interesting. So there's a moderate living wage so that we have, like, many people in, like, large companies, and, like, the large companies would pay for the welfare of any of their employees, and that would allow small businesses to be more competitive. We'll come back to this. There should be no minimum wage. The markets will figure it out. No. Workers should have a minimum wage to prevent the race to the bottom, but executives develop ideas for their business and take risks in founding it, thus deserve a large portion of the company's profit. All companies should be required to split their profits fairly throughout their employees. Anyone in charge of the company should not be allowed to be paid significantly more than those at the bottom of the company. There should be a national program that guarantees a job with a wage that people can live comfortably on. Working on things such as better infrastructure, companies that pay less than that will have trouble finding workers to fill their openings. People should produce as they can consume what they need. The concept of money should not exist. People should be guaranteed living wages for their jobs. They should be able to work on a single job with reasonable hours and guaranteed enough to afford everything they need. The majority of working people should be paid the value of their labor with a minimum a comfortable living wage. There should also be a maximum wage, and managers and executives should be paid a lot less. There are a lot of good ones here, I'll be honest. Let me see. I'm stuck on the idea of a minimum and maximum wage, people being guaranteed a living wage, guaranteed job. I'm going to go with this one just so I can make it so that we can cut off. No, wait. See, this is where the sock dem social democracy communism thing kind of comes in. I'll go with this one. Taxation of religious buildings. Religious buildings should receive state funding to ensure they are able to stay open. Religious buildings should be taxed, and they should not be given religious special privileges over other businesses. The state should exempt all religious buildings from taxation as long as it is exempting those of all religions. Religious buildings should be banned. The neckbeard wins in this round. Prostitution. Unapproved sex should not be permitted. Sex should be reserved for marriage. No. People should be free to do what they want with their bodies. If they want to sell themselves for sex, that's their own choice. We should have regulated prostitution and other sex work because the alternative is a black market, which is much worse. Prostitution takes advantage of the poor, making them sell themselves to rich people just so they'll be able to pay the bills. It should be illegal to buy. That's a one that we never hear. We don't hear that one that often. Illegal to buy, not to sell. But at the end of the day, we probably should go with this one. It should be able to, because it's the same argument with abortion or guns to a degree. It needs to be regulated, otherwise you're going to get it on the black market. Leader selection. Leaders should be chosen democratically by the nation that they will lead. Leaders should be chosen through military experience. Leaders should be mostly hereditary. No. We should not have a single designated leader to be chosen by any method. Leaders should be chosen but not directly through popular vote. No. Leaders should be chosen by the individuals with a large stake. No. Leaders should be appointed by the previous leader based on. No. So it's democracy. Democracy wins. The government shouldn't be allowed to look at most communications, but software should automatically flag potentially illegal activities for review and potential reporting on authorities. People should have a reasonable exception of privacy in their data, but the government should be allowed to gain access to private communications of certain people if they have reasonable cause to apply for a warrant. The government should be able to access the communications of anybody. This should be used to discourage people from engaging in illegal activities online. People should have the right to privacy in their communications. The government should not be able to get electronic data. Companies should be permitted to monitor your communications and ensure that you are following all their terms. But the government, or if one exists, should not be allowed to do so. At the end of the day, it's kind of a little bit of this and a little bit of this. No, not this one. This one. I meant this one and this one. These two, I kind of have a little bit of both. People should have a right to privacy, obviously. But people should also have... They should, of course, have... But then at the end of the day, it's like, what do you do about people who have CP? Do they have privacy? I'm going to go with slightly on this one just because, there are those rare cases where it's like, maybe you should be monitoring them. But for the majority of people, no. Internet service providers. It is expensive for ISPs to connect to areas of the internet. They will do their best to ensure coverage at an affordable price and should only be penalized if they fail to deliver the quality or reliability of the internet that they advertise. We should regulate internet service providers to ensure that they provide nationwide coverage and that there are multiple options everywhere to allow competition and persecute them if their companies form deals to allow them to create regional monopolies. We must make it feasible for people to start government-backed internet service providers in their area. These will be owned by the government and provided to everyone. However, people may choose which ISP they want among other options in the area. High-speed internet service providers must be nationalized. They aren't able to have a fair competition due to costs of laying out cables, especially in rural areas. Internet service providers should not be regulated. Through taxes, the government should be able to subsidize multiple internet service providers. We should have a national internet service provider that guarantees affordable, reliable, high-speed internet to the entire community. Private companies will have to compete with that as a baseline. You know what, at the end of the day, yeah, maybe we should just nationalize the internet. Something like this, yeah. Something like that. We can use drugs to ensure people are incapable of causing trouble. We can mandate them and only provide them when people act in accordance with how the state requires. We should educate our children on the dangers of drugs and ban the most harmful ones, but the ones like marijuana should be legal for recreational use. Bans on many drugs like marijuana were designated to proportionally affect the poor and minorities. We should overturn most drug-related convictions and institute programs to help addicts get their lives back in order. When you put in your own body as your own business, we should legalize drugs so they don't go to the black market. Drugs are dangerous for our society, could tear families apart. We're gonna go with this one. National debt. We should be mindful of the debt and pay it off when possible. When the economy takes a downturn, we should spend to help it survive, but we should cut government spending and pay back the debt when it picks back up. The government should not have a debt because it should not be spending. Having a debt is not a bad thing, and we should not cut spending. Currency should not exist as a result. Debt should not exist. Government controls the currency. We can print more money when we need more money, and legislate prices to stay level to keep inflation from becoming a problem. We should take on debt to both improve society and to invest in our population in ways that will pay more in the long run. At the end of the day, I kind of have to go with this, but I also kind of want to go with this because it's like I kind of don't care about the debt. We're not going to pay the debt. The debt is way too big for us to pay. No, you know what? I'm just going to go with I don't care. Who cares about the debt? No one cares. The only people who care about the debt are the people that are like, oh, we got the debt. But then they're going to spend a lot more money to cause the debt to go in deeper trouble. The debt is not going to get paid off. There's no point. If the state approves for you to have a baby, you should have it unless the mother's life is in danger. If the state approves you to have a baby, no, just by that, no. You should have full control over your body, including the right to have an abortion. Nah, I don't need to read anymore. Right to a secession. We should not have provinces and be a unitary state, so that there should not be anywhere clearly defined able to secede. Provinces should exist, but in most cases should not be given independence referendums, and certainly not as a right. Those who want independence should not be forced to remain part of our nation. Any individual should have the right to take their own land and property and declare themselves independent without a vote. Provinces should have the right to secede. It should be possible for one organization to organize a referendum and secede if it passes with overwhelming support. Provinces should not be allowed to secede, however, we should give states more flexibility in settling their own laws, such as the way they pass laws that they want, except in extreme cases such as violating human rights. I really don't think we should be seceding. Other countries have different laws, but the United States in particular, we don't really have any rights to secede at this point. Death penalty. I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the one where it's like no death penalty. Let me see. We should always try to rehabilitate criminals and still have the right to live and change, so the death penalty should be banned. Yeah, I'm going to go with that one. The most important trait in a political leader. The most important trait in a political leader is intelligence. The most important quality in a leader is experience. We should make our own decisions. We don't need a leader above us. The most important quality in a leader is empathy. The most important quality is power. Political courage. We need someone who makes the decisions to be made even if they are unpopular. We need someone who can influence policy through connections beyond the office they hold. We need someone who is capable of understanding our issues and addressing them as we want. We need someone who knows how to make decisions and understands how government functions. We need someone who can understand problems and find solutions to them. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to go with either intelligence or empathy. But which one do we need more? Yes, a lot of the people in our government are very not intelligent. But we also need a lot of people who have more empathy. So I'm going to go with slightly... Eeny, meeny, miny. I'm going to go with empathy. Because at the end of the day, like Kirsten Sinema, we just talked about it, Kirsten Sinema. She just walked up to there and is like, no living wage. It's like, how could you be that heartless? We need people with more empathy. As Finn once said, empathy, put yourself in the place of me. Deaths caused by police. There should not be a policing force. Most police should not be armed with lethal weapons. Should be representative of the communities that they serve. Police work is dangerous. No. I know what this is. Police should be legal and to kill someone. No. When a police death occurs, there should be an investigation. The officer should be punished if they not follow policy. But if they followed a bad policy, the policy should be changed, and the officer should not be punished. What? But if they followed a bad policy, the policy should be changed, the officer should not be punished? No. If they followed a bad policy, change the policy and punish the officer. I'm going to go with this one. The idea of the police, like, it's not that the police is a bad thing, kind of, but it's that police are being trained to, like, murder and stuff. We need, like, basically it's like, with police, you either need to reform the system so drastically that it can basically be qualified as a completely different system, or scrap it and get rid of something and get rid of it and replace it with something new. And this is kind of what I want. The police should be armed with very little, if anything, consumer goods production. Government-owned industries should manufacture all consumer goods for the population. The government should not be producing consumer goods. That is for the markets to produce. The nation should guarantee consumer goods to meet everyone's needs, provided that those are able to make them without any sort of currency. Anyone should be able to start a government-backed company that can produce competing consumer goods. Government should regulate consumer goods to ensure safety and compliance with the standards, but not produce them. The government should produce consumer goods to ensure an affordable price. However, the free market should be able to compete with it. I mean, I guess technically a little bit of this. I mean, this would be more of like what it is now. But I mean, we have like generic brand things for a reason. I know that's not really like government owned stuff, but maybe we should have that as well. Refugees. It is our duty to help people in need. We should take in as many refugees as we are able to comfortably support. Refugees are not a problem. They should not be allowed to enter the nation. If they can make it into our country, we should not deny them entry. They should have the right to be a part of our nation. These people could pose a threat to our citizens. We have a system where refugees have background checks, but after they pass, we should let them subject to conditions for integrating into our society. We should accept refugees only if they are able to offer something to our nation. I'm going to go with this. Yeah. It is our duty to help people in need. Private schools. The state should own all schools, make it easier to ensure all our citizens have an equal opportunity to succeed. There should be a mixture of public and private schools. However, public schools should receive a lot of funding to ensure our children have well-educated and ensure they are competitive with private schools. There should not be public schools. The state has no obligation to provide education to those who cannot afford it. All schools should be public schools. However, parents and students should be able to choose which public school they attend rather than having it be chosen automatically based on location. Schools should be private, but the government should provide vouchers to ensure that every child is able to afford attending a school. State owning all schools is a pretty good idea, but we'd have to make sure that those schools are really good. All schools should be public schools. I do kind of agree with, like, in the more modern society, that is a thing. Because there are a lot of people who, like... No, you know what? I think I'll just go with the state on all schools, but slight. Just because under this system, I would believe that we'd be putting a lot of funding into these schools to make sure that they're good, to make sure they're high quality. Because in the way that things are now, we do kind of have a problem with schools. Like a public school, like with the system, like we have schools that, there are a lot of people who have like the bad school and the good school. Like when I was in high school, I went to a school that was kind of like the bad school, the school that wasn't that well liked and that wasn't well respected, because coincidentally, it was a majority minority school. But like other schools, like there's one school, I'm not going to say the name, but it's like really well respected, and it's kind of like the white school. Universal basic income. People should be guaranteed their needs. As such, income such as universal basic income should not exist. Oh wait, that's an interesting idea. People should be guaranteed their needs. As such, universal basic income should not exist. I support a universal wage, a bit lower than the average wage, more than a basic income. Those who cannot work due to medical conditions, temporary employment, and retirement should receive it. The poor should be guaranteed essentials through government-run public options with discounted rates. No. Guaranteeing income is a dangerous idea that disincentivizes working. This would hurt the economy, and I cannot support it. I support a universal basic income. The poor should not have to prove their status of being poor to have the government manage how they spend their welfare for them. I support a universal basic income paid for by large corporations outsourcing honorary jobs. Rather than starting taxation at zero, there should be a threshold, and those below the threshold are paid. I am opposed to universal income. I support universal income because consisting of profits from government-run companies. Honestly, this sounds good. People should be guaranteed their needs, but then technically that is a universal basic income to a degree. Like, people should be guaranteed their needs, as such income, such as universal basic income, should not exist. Elections. Those who serve the company through military should not have a say in the government, and then those who should have more say in the government than those who not. There shouldn't be a government to even vote to put people in. Those who put more money into the government deserve more out of their vote. A vote is a vote, and all votes should be counted exactly the same. Voting is a really unnecessary process. The whims of the masses are irrelevant. Every person must have a vote, but it should be weighted geographically for at least one chamber of the legislature to ensure one region cannot be dominated by the legislature. The vote of an educated person should be worth more than those of a fool. A vote is a vote, and all votes are the same. UN resolutions, main 6 bodies. Our country should look out for our own people, not the people of the world, and we should not follow UN guidelines. We should follow UN guidelines and put international pressure on nations that don't make the world a better place for everybody. We should not be part of the UN. We should attempt to use the United Nations to our advantage to support proposals that benefit us and encourage others to follow them. However, we should only follow the proposals that benefit us. I support having the United Nations or a similar new organization to replace governments such as our own to unify the world into a single country. Our nation's laws should not be decided by other nations. We can consider UN resolutions, but should only pass them as laws in our nation if they match our interests. We should not change our way of life because other nations say so. I'm gonna go with this, yeah. If the UN resolutions are, of course, good, obviously, because they could be bad. Foreign aid. We should not be sending our taxpayers' hard-earned money to other nations. We should put foreign aid to nations with poor standards, improving their life there, reduces war refugees, and protects our nation from them. Foreign aid can greatly improve the quality of lives of developing nations for relatively little cost to us, so we should provide it. We should expand our influence abroad, and foreign aid is a good way to gain favors and popular opinion abroad. The affairs of other nations do not matter to us. There is no reason to send them foreign aid. Any government should be minimal if it exists at all, and thus should not have the funds to be paying money abroad. I'm going to go with this slightly because I think that, yeah, at the end of the day, especially considering the U.S. has done a lot of things on across the world scene, we should at the very least be giving them money to fix the problems that we did. So, religious baker refuses to make a gay marriage cake. People should never be mandated to do anything unless they're asking him to draw a graphic image depicting homosexuality. He should have a problem with it. The couple should be arrested. They should be pairing with someone who they produce babies with. The baker is being asked to do something against his religion. He should have no obligation to create that. This is unacceptable discrimination and homophobia. This man should not be in business. I guess slightly this, because it's just like everybody's made that same joke when it came out. Like, dude, just bake the cake. Who cares? Everybody made that same reference. Like, dude, and I say this, and I'll still say this. If, Patriot Front comes into my business and says, excuse me, we want to, let's say I'm a baker, and then Patriot Front comes in and is like, hey, excuse me, can we, have, this cake with the fascist symbol on it? I'd go, okay. Because that's my duty. I'm baking a cake. Who cares? Free speech. You should not have freedom of speech. No. Speech should be free, but you should not be guaranteed protection from backlash, including being removed from platforms if your opinions are unwelcome there. We should ban and penalize very offensive language such as slurs. You should have the freedom to say anything. It's not illegal until you actually take illegal action based on the speech. Speech should be generally free if it is literal speech. However, symbolic speech is destroying symbols and the government religious symbols should be gross and banned. Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, speech is free, but at the end of the day, you're gonna get a backlash because of your speech. If I say, fuck Muhammad, he's a stupid idiot, who cares? People are gonna hate me for saying that. And sure, I might not get invited to, Muslim Twitter, but who cares? International currency. I support using a shared currency with neighboring nations. It allows our people and theirs to easily travel to our nations. Sharing a currency with a neighboring nation increases our currency stability and gives it more weight internationally, so I support it. I'm opposed to sharing currency with the nations. We need to be able to make decisions about our currency internationally, and foreigners should have no say in that. Our historical currency is a part of our national identity. We cannot give that up for a slight ease of transaction with foreigners. The government should not be regulating currency. Having the ability to print our own currency when we need to stimulate our economy is valuable to our nation. I support sharing currency with our neighbors as it will simplify life for everyone in the shared currency zone and make international commerce easy. I mean, I kind of don't care, but at the end of the day, it's fine, whatever. No, you know what? I'm just going to say I don't care. Who cares? I really don't care if the US goes from the dollar to the euro. Who cares? If we incentivize, of course, people having the ability to change the currency. Yeah, that's fine. Whistleblowers. Whistleblowers who are revealing information that the people have a right to know, such as illegal activities the government did, should be protected and regarded as heroes. Whistleblowers should make reports through the proper channels for their ethical concerns. There should be no classified information. As such, there is no issue with whistleblowers. Anyone leaking secrets must be punished. The people the states trust handle. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, I agree with this sentiment, but at the end of the day, it's like, at one point, like, let's say I'm the guy in charge of the government. Yes, I say, oh, there's no need for classified information. But yeah, do you really trust me to not have any classified information whatsoever? Of course not. So I'm going to go with this. Utilities. Utilities such as electricity and water should be nationalized. They are public goods that everyone needs. Public control allows best quality since in many places there is only one option. Utilities will find a fair competitive price. They should not be regulated. No. We should have national utilities companies, but not ban private citizen companies. No. Utilities should be regulated to ensure the systems are compatible so that multiple companies can connect to the same building. Utilities should be owned by local governments and communities. The government should, let me see, they will be responsive of the small group they serve, and they can be replaced by the community if they're not meeting the needs of the community. The government should subsidize utility companies. It's expensive for companies to set up utility. You know what? At the end of the day, yeah, sure, whatever. Nationalize them. Honestly, yeah, nationalizing certain industries is a good thing. Nationalize petroleum, nationalize water, nationalize electricity. Sure, but make sure it's a good product. Like, I mean, if we're nationalizing water, make sure the water is good. Make sure it has no minerals in it whatsoever, unless the minerals are a good thing. We should use our military as a deterrent to ensure we are not attacked, as every time we enter war, we are putting our citizens' lives on the line. We should not have a military. We should use our military to ensure the well-being and freedom of people around the world, such as contributing to international peacekeeping missions and efforts to replace governments that fail to respect human rights. We should use our military to assault and annex territory that should belong to us. We should primarily use our military to ensure our nation maintains its status and independence, such as defending allies and assuring our other nations do not try to take our land and water. Our military should defend our interests abroad. The state of other nations should not concern us, so any military we maintain should be for self-defense only. Yeah, I'll kind of go with this. Any military we have should really just be for self-defense. Creationism in schools, which one is the bad one? Which one is the one that I just say, get rid of it? Schools should be required to teach evolution and evolution alone. That is science, facts, and pretending it does not is disservice to our children. But no. 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 Minority groups making language official were spoken a lot. We should add it as an additional language in that locality, as it can make life significantly easier for these people. People who do not speak our language should be deported. No. It is important for our nation to have a single national. No. This will cause an undue burden in our industries and labeling everything for all language localities. We should have one national. Is this literally the only one that's good? Religious statement on national memorials. Religion is an important part of our nation. No. There is nothing wrong with mentioning God in our memorials as long as it isn't actively promoting any particular religion. I'm opposed to mentioning a deity that probably doesn't exist in our memorials to the real people who died for our nation. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like, because it's like, let's just think about this logistically for a little bit of a second. If, like, let's say hypothetically I put a memorial for the American Revolution and then said, like, in memory of, like, I hope Allah remembers our fallen heroes, people are going to go crazy for that. People are going to go like, oh, how could you? But then I do that for God, and then it's like, oh, everybody's okay with it. But it's like, what about all the people who don't believe in that or whatever? The founding fathers, many of them were like deists to flat out atheistic. So yeah. Highways. Local governments should build and maintain highways. This ensures that they are responsive to the wishes of the local communities and their wishes. We should have many highways be public, but allow private highways to be built to compete with. Highways should be operated by the national government. This ensures we can guarantee road quality nationwide that is free for everyone and should employ a lot of people to work on ensuring top quality. You know what? Yeah, sure. A nationwide, like, I mean, everybody, like, it was mentioned a lot during, like, the 2016 election, like our crumbling infrastructure. Bernie was mentioning it, and then many people were saying like, oh, Trump could use this like big team to build the wall to then just travel around the United States and repair our crumbling infrastructure. Climate change. We must act to prevent climate change, and everyone must do their part. We must provide incentives to individuals. The population should be expected to minimize their own waste. Corporations and the rich are the biggest contributors to climate change. We should direct most of our regulations to them and ensure that people are not wasting energy powering a giant mansion they don't need. I like that. Immigration. We should accept and encourage talented, educated immigrants to move here. We can provide them the best of our country, and they can better our country with their talents. Immigrants cause breaking laws should be deported, but those who illegally enter the country should be overlooked and allowed to stay, as they work for lower wages and the worst conditions. We can accept immigrants, but they should be expected to learn our language. No. We must make it easy and quickly to legally immigrate to this country. Immigrants improve our nation, and we can provide many of them with a much better quality of life. We must ensure that there is a need for immigrants when we let in. Those who take low-paying jobs, anyone can take care of. We should close our borders. No. We need to be able to screen immigrants coming into our country and ultimately decide who enters. I like this one. Healthcare. I believe in not just having one, but many government-owned healthcare options. Both healthcare and treatment should be directly provided and guaranteed to all citizens by the nation. You know what? Yeah, government should provide healthcare. Most important espionage agency tasks. We should not even have a foreign espionage agency. Our domestic agency should be focused on uncovering and tracking down criminals and people who enter the nation illegally. The most important espionage task is for our domestic agency to track down people who enter the nation illegally so we can deport them. We should use our espionage agencies to primarily identify terrorist threats that could pose a risk to our nations. We should not have an espionage agency. The most important risk is uncovering and tracking down the worst sorts of criminals who reside in our nation. We should use our foreign espionage agency to attempt to infiltrate our enemies abroad and overthrow leaders who oppose us when possible. The most important task for our foreign espionage agency is to uncover atrocities around the world and expose them. At the end of the day, I do kind of, do need an espionage agency. But it's like, it's more should be focused on us because it's the CIA. I don't know if the CIA is the Central Intelligence Agency, but it shouldn't be focused on like nationwide things. It should be focused on threats in our borders because it's an American agency. Genetic engineering. Genetic engineering poses a major threat to allow the super rich to have inhumanly perfect babies whom can outperform the poor, furthering societal class gaps, which should be banned except in cases of life and death. Human genetics should not be something we alter unless there is certain death for a person in question without genetic modification. We should avoid it. Genetic engineering should not only be allowed but required. Government should not stand in the way of genetic engineering. Those who wish to create a better children using our technology, we should use genetic modification for good, such as eradicating diseases and correcting genetic defects. Look, you see, the thing is, with this is clearly just the eugenics argument. Like, I mean, when I think genetic engineering, I was thinking more like making tomatoes, but like this is like all like eugenics. I would go with this, just like, yeah. Power for policy setting. No person or body should hold power over an individual. We should be free to live our lives. The wealthiest individuals should hold power. The military should know. Power should be shared between the national and local governments roughly equally. Power should lie between the people directly, who should initiate legislative through citizen-initiated ballot measures. An elected national legislative branch should primarily be the one to set policy for the entire nation and overrule any laws at a provincial level. I'm going to go with slightly this. I think it would just be better. Let me check. Policy setting power should lie within the executive branch, provincial or local area. Yeah, I'm going to go with slightly this. Regional union / parliament like the EU. I oppose being part of any such union. I have no interest in what laws the other nations have. The freedom of our people is my first priority, and the regulations from this union could restrict the freedom of this country. I am opposed to being a part of it. The union contains many nations with many languages, identities, and cultures that they are able to maintain through cultural identities. As such, I see no issue with our membership. The union allows for us to better protect the people through international product safety standards. It could allow us easier international trade deals, bring up quality of life. Our laws are for our people to decide, not for those abroad. I oppose being part of this union. Being a part of this regional union gives us much greater say in international affairs. I support this regional union. We should use this commonplace department to push forward. I'm going to go with, yeah. I'd be down with if America, Mexico, and Canada, formed, the American Union, and then, maybe, Central American countries as well, Nicaragua and stuff. Is Nicaragua a Central American country? I think so. But, having a regional union of the Americas is a good idea. I would be down for that if it's I think we need certain limits and rules on that. I mean, in the future, they might be down to replace those rules, but we'll have to wait and see if that would be the case. Representatives. I want a representative who will bring stability and strength through a lifelong rule. I do not want representation. I want to be able to directly vote on the most issues as a referendum. I want a leader who will represent the popular opinion of the area to serve when they personally disagree. I want leaders who are experts in various fields and can use that knowledge to create well-informed policies. I want a leader who serves in the military. I want a representative who I can bribe. I don't want representation. I want the government to be abolished. I kind of... Since none of these other ones... This one is a slight one, but I think I might want to go with this one. For this one. Because the other options didn't really seem to be a good one. I want this one to do this thing even though they disagree with it. But it's I would want a representative who I agree with. Flag burning. I support the right to protest and destroy flags, but flag burning should be regulated for safety and ensure that it does not pose a danger to our people or property through smoke or fire. This should be a free country. If you own a flag, you should be able to burn it if that's what you so want to do. The nation has major issues, and the only way to get them to address is to draw attention. Flag burning is a fairly harmless but gets the attention, and it's a good protest method. A flag is a symbol of a nation. To destroy a flag is to destroy a hostile act of the nation. It should be illegal. I'm just more of the general, it's a free nation. Do whatever you want. Gun ownership. Gun ownership should be encouraged, if not required, to deter criminals who will have put their lives at risk when committing a crime. Anyone should be able to own a gun and be able to use it when they feel threatened. Many gun deaths are caused by lack of proper training. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think the school shooters that go into people's schools and shoot them were well trained. Those who can demonstrate a need to own a gun should be able to get one. Civilians, however, those without a need should not be able to. Many gun deaths... I guess technically this one, even though I literally just badmouthed the front part, it's really the second part that I like. Bank crashing that will damage the economy. The issue is that we have private mega banks, which instead have locally owned community banks, but the interest of the communities, we should create a single national government-owned bank and buy all the current banks, including the one that is failing, to ensure banks do not exist in any form. We should break up big banks before they get into a situation where a crash like this can be caused by one company. We should purchase this bank and run it as a national bank. Other banks can compete with us, but we can guarantee we won't go bankrupt. We should bail out the banks. I think we should just break up the monopolies. Outsourcing. We should have national manufacturing subsidized by taxes to keep prices competitive with outsourced jobs. We should remove the minimum wage here, then cost of producing here will be lower than producing abroad and shipping here. The government should nationalize all manufacturing jobs in the nation, and should not outsource jobs. The government shouldn't own most industry, but should allow competition between them so that there's not just one choice. We should regulate companies to only provide subsidies and government purchases to businesses that perform key manufacturing within the nation, not abroad. Outsourcing manual labor allows our citizens to have cheap goods and not have to do routine manual labor. We should impose heavy fees on goods produced in countries with worse labor laws. Maybe slightly this. Election reform. We must reform our elections by expanding ballot access. Citizens should be automatically registered and sent a ballot. We should improve our election security through being more strict in ID laws. We should be making elections secure and open by using internet technology such as blockchain and allow electronic voting delegation. Elections should be cancelled, and the law should not be decided by popular opinion. We should reform elections by making it legal to sell your vote. The role of people in policy. The general population has bad opinions, and government would be better off without their opinions. The population as a collective generally can understand and make good decisions in terms of policy with a little bit of explanation to be able to decide what they will do with that directly. The people generally know what they want, but cannot be expected to have the time to resource and vote on every single issue, and should delegate it to representatives. The other people's opinions should not have an effect on what you're allowed to do. You know what? Yeah, I kind of agree with this just because it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, a lot of people just have jobs. A lot of people have the ability, like they don't have the time to do this. But we should reform the government so that it works. Okay, so let's see what I am. Okay, so unitary democracy. This quiz uses unitary democracy to refer to people who believe that power should be left to the national government, with little or no power given to the provinces on most issues. That is really confusing. I thought for sure I would get direct democracy, but I guess not. Economy. 100% socialism. This is for my banner. 100% socialism. Society. 53.4% freedom. 29.3% progressivism. And 17.3% social justice. Okay. Religion. 83.1% atheist. 16.9% secular. Okay, security, 100% reformist. Okay, foreign policy, 100% internationalist. Okay, this is an interesting. Honestly, the only one that I legitimately didn't expect was like maybe this one, but maybe it's just because I generally felt that, like, I mean, the way they put democracy in this sense was a lot more, not outlandish, but a lot more like in the future that you couldn't necessarily perceive. But yeah, I'm going to stick with this one because it's just like, I like this one. 100% socialism. That sums it up pretty good. So anyways, that's where we're going to have to end it for today. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified if a future video comes out. And if you want to see more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, check out my articles in the Independent Political Report, or consider supporting me on Patreon.